Welcome to Birth at Work, the podcast where we dive into the real, unfiltered stories of what it's actually like to navigate pregnancy, birth, and early parenthood while building a career. I'm your host, Krislyn Powell. Each episode, we sit down with working parents who share their honest experiences, the victories, the setbacks, the moments of doubt, and the strategies that actually work. Because let's be honest, most workplace policies weren't designed with pregnancy and new parenthood in mind. And it's time we talked about what that really means for the millions of us trying to grow families while growing our careers. I'm excited to come on today and chat with you a little bit about what's happening in my life right now, which is my third pregnancy experience. I have already shared about my first and second. Obviously, if you look back at previous episodes, my first I did experience a miscarriage. My second was a healthy vaginal birth and a great experience overall. I had some eye-opening moments, definitely returning back to work. And so that was something that I had to process, it just being kind of like the first healthy pregnancy that I had and birth and, going through postpartum for the first time. And so I'm excited to share a little bit about where I'm at today. This is, I'm 4 years since my last, almost 4 years. It will be 4 years this fall when I have my baby, since I had my last baby. It's perfect timing. I couldn't be happier. My husband and I had been trying actually for like a couple years and like trying but not trying, then really trying, then trying but not trying again. And finally, when we just sort of took a trip to Hawaii and just totally relaxed, I got pregnant. I also did some other things, like I started going to acupuncture again and I limited screen time, just ate a little bit more mindfully. I bought a book, Real Food for Pregnancy, which I'll link. And I did change a little bit about the dynamics of what I was eating. I mean, honestly though, but from those lifestyle changes, just within a couple months, I got pregnant. But it did take about, I had done some blood work, probably like 3 or 4 months before that. And I was working with a naturopath at the time, and she was saying, and she's been with me through thick and thin through it all, but she was saying like your levels like really across the board are all depleted and you're in high stress, and just thinking about you need to be thinking about making some life changes and thinking about like getting better quality sleep, what you're eating, and then just like not stressing so much about life. Yeah, I think it all happened at the right time. And I just want to share a little bit about the journey of navigating that through my work experience at the current time. I am not in the same role that I was in with my last baby. So it's very interesting enough. I haven't been in or with the same company with any of my children. It's so interesting. I've actually left a company with each birth, with each child. And that's not, it like coincidentally has been like with the first, it was after my miscarriage, and I just had it was eye-opening. It was an eye-opening experience for me. And then with my second, I left right before I had my baby. And it was simply because, a number of things, but the main reason was I wasn't going to get the support and the environment that I wanted to bring a child into the world and as a working parent. And so, and then with this last one, there was company changes, and I moved on to a different opportunity. And I have been working in a contract capacity over the past, just over a year. Started that, about a year ago, and loving it. It's actually with a company that I have worked with before about 8 years ago. And so when a friend reached out to me and offered me a position on his team, I was thrilled. And I worked in the capacity of training and development. And then I continued to develop projects for various stakeholders and was kind of snagged by another leader to join her team. And that's been wonderful too. I have gotten to shift into an employee experience. And I mean, I literally wrote this in like what I was looking for. When I was switching jobs a year ago, I had a leader and mentor reach out to me and say like, can you write out, like a few sentences of like what you're looking for? Maybe I can help. And what I'm doing now is essentially like what I wrote. So it's pretty cool how that came to fruition. But back to pregnancy, found out I was pregnant in December. few weeks after we had our trip to Hawaii, which was wonderful. And I was so thrilled. This was like a couple weeks before Christmas. And obviously, wanting everything to go smoothly. I'm like, I know everything that I want to change that I did before my last pregnancy and everything I want to do differently. And I decided to share early enough where I felt comfortable, which was around excuse me, which was around the like 12-week mark. So that was like February. Going into, I actually shared a little bit before 12 weeks, I believe, but it was in February where I had the conversation. It was like in between, I think I shared it like 10 weeks. It was like in between one event and another event where I was going to have to travel for both. I traveled for one, it went amazingly well, got major kudos for it. And then the next week it was like 2.5 weeks that would pass before another event happened where I would have to travel again. And there would be like rides involved, and I knew I couldn't ride the rides, and there would be other things happening throughout the week that I just needed to be mindful of as I was pregnant, and I needed to communicate that. And so, yeah, I did it a little bit earlier. So it was like 10 weeks. I shared the news, and I was a little bit concerned because in a contract capacity, I worked and work with a contract company. And I also like I have management that is with the company that my contract company contracts with, and I work with them like every day. I'm like consistently collaborating with them, having meetings with them, use all of their tech, and then the contract company arranges for that partnership and checks in every so often to make sure that I'm doing good. They pay my paychecks and negotiate the salary and all of those things. And when I joined about a year ago, just being like transparent about different things that were available to me, there are a series of benefits that I did sign on with. And one of them was parental leave. And I was really excited because there's a paid policy, and I knew like, we want to have another kid. I don't know when that's going to happen, and hopefully it happens, but it hadn't for a little bit. And so we weren't sure if we were going to be able to have another child. And then about, let's say 6 or so months into my contract, the company that was contracting with my contract company, their parent company opted to cut those benefits. And so this was just a few weeks. Well, actually, no, not a few weeks. It was probably like couple months before I found out I was pregnant, but still like relatively closely to the time I was like, the benefits were changed, and then I found out I was pregnant. I was like, the timing, all of this, really, darn it. So just keeping all of that in mind, it was like, there's not like a paid benefit here, which is unfortunate, but it's not something that I haven't experienced before. Again, unfortunately. And yeah, I had a really early, open, honest conversation with a couple of different people at the company that I was contracting with, and kind of really just asked for like transparency, support, like I love what I'm doing. How do I continue doing it and like bring a child into the world? And both of like the people that I consulted with are also working parents, and just like a lot of respect for leaders and managers who are working parents who are able to empathize. And so I appreciated that. I do feel like throughout conversations that I had with both my company, like the contract company, and then the company that I contract with, that there was a lot of support for like my journey through pregnancy. Like, this is so amazing. We're so happy for you. Congratulations. And not much different from what I had experienced before as an FTE in other organizations. Like, as you're pregnant, awesome. Most pregnant women are still able to work at full capacity in a number of different ways. And although like I'm not currently traveling anymore, I'm going into my third trimester really like next week, there wasn't a lot of clarity around what it looks like after I have the baby, and even what like leave looks like. And so that was, initially it's kind of like there's a lot to figure out with my contract company versus the company that I contract with. And I had been talking to the company I contract with. So there was a lot of conversations with the contract company, ultimately determining like really what it came down to. Like, you don't have paid leave. I paid a short-term disability. And so that's like something that is an element that I could continue and I'm just going to be frank here. If I wanted to, it will continue as long as my contract continues, which is interesting. So it's like, but once I have that baby, like my contract essentially stops, or like I have a contract period that will go to a certain point, but it's not like the full point of when I'm taking my leave. So at some point, the short-term disability will actually stop earlier than I would like to, but also there's always an opportunity to like do Cobra and like extend that. But I'm just going to be frank again. It's like a pretty confusing process. And again, for moms who are navigating this, and even like working parents in general, taking a leave as a contract worker and as an FTE, the short-term disability process is really confusing. There's not a lot of info that like the company that offers a short-term disability benefit will provide you. They'll just be like, here's the phone number, call the company. We don't really know how it works, but I think this is how it works. Figure it out. And I'm not saying that to paint a bad light on this like particular experience. I think that that's a very normal thing that happens with leaves, generally speaking, whether it's for parental leave, bringing a child into the world, or a sick leave, or an injury, or anything like that, or grieving. I think that there can be a lot of improvement on how that conversation and process is handled. And I asked all the questions because I had gone through it once before and still felt foggy. And I have pages of notes. And so again, like just pausing here to say that this kind of interaction with any company is like pretty common, and understand it's not really like, maybe it just doesn't feel convenient for the company. Like, oh, there's going to be a pause in working for an employee. Like, employees are human and we have human experiences. And I would just advocate that any HR be well equipped to speak to policies and handhold and guide in order for employees to feel supported. And they need to be like a wealth of abundance of resources, or they need to be a wealth and abundance of resource and support, and just be able to make the process feel really smooth. I look at it as like, I've worked in customer experience for the majority of my career, and I've also done employee experience, and it just doesn't, like, the two do not measure up. And I understand, like, when you're making money like off the customers, and then two, with the employees, like, you're paying them money, but like without the employees, you wouldn't have the customers. So it is a cycle. Like, everyone is a customer. And I do also find that even if there's an overemphasis on the customer experience and like pouring investment there, if the employee experience is lapsing, then that also reflects back to the customer experience. So it doesn't matter like where the money is going. It's like, if you're not making the journey a smooth one and an approachable one, and one that feels supportive and feels like they're talking to me, they understand me, then that person, regardless if they're a customer or an employee, which again, everyone is a customer, they might not feel like they want to be committed to the product or the brand anymore. And so I think that's where we see like consistent questioning or like turning points or pivots with working parents. And it's an opportunity to improve. So all this to say, like, obviously, like, don't have a paid benefit. No worries, been through that before. Like, we're figuring it out. But my concern was like, I want to have a job. I want to, even if the leave isn't paid, that's fine. Like, I want to have something to return to. I love to work. I love what I'm doing. I'm good at what I do. And also just felt like with the support of leaders who are working parents, that there would be an opportunity to come back. And I think, I have worked with contractors. I've hired contractors, and I've also hired FTEs. And so I've been in the leadership position. I've also been an independent contributor, and I'm an independent contributor right now. And so I'll just say that in the open and honest conversations early on, a phrase that kept coming up for me was like, oh, you have so much time. Everything's going to work out. You have so much time. No worries. It will all be great. Those like generic phrases kept popping up. Assuring, right? And then as someone who is pregnant, a lot of people don't realize this, but really you're like planning from the day that you find out that you're pregnant. And every day is some sort of planning, whether that's hiring the medical staff or interviewing them, figuring out what facility you're going to be birthing at, understanding the timeline of your pregnancy and delivery and then postpartum, figuring out the details of your leave, understanding like what appointments you need to book during pregnancy and how you need to change your exercise and nutrition, your sleep habits, all of the things, telling people, like sharing the news if you want to. Finding out the gender if you want to, navigating having work conversations, and then like navigating work travel, like what can I go to, what can't I, and where are my boundary lines here? What am I comfortable with? And then there's just so much. So for as endearing and intentionally kind as it may seem for people to say, you are so far ahead, like you have so much time, don't worry about a thing. All of those felt very patronizing to me, all of those phrases. And I did feel worried, insecure. I felt unsupported at times. I will say I felt frustrated. I felt like blurry. Like I felt like the future was blurry, and I just let it sit for a moment and kept planning all of the other things that I needed to plan and kept doing my job really well and kept being a great mom. Like living my life and managing my pregnancy, which this pregnancy has been, I mean, I was a little bit nauseous in the first trimester, but overall, like in switching, like taking out some dairy in the first trimester, that really minimized the nausea. And I have had like an amazing pregnancy. And I understand this is privileged because like a lot of women have different issues that come up, but done a lot of inner work, been really health conscious, moved my body, had like a really low risk, no drama pregnancy, and it's been incredible. I wouldn't say the same for like navigating what my career looks like. I would say that it's been a rocky road, and you know, I let those conversations sit, just kept on charging along for like a couple months. And then internally just accepted, like, it became very clear to me without being told that slight sigh, deep pause, that due to the pause in my ability to perform work, aka having a baby and needing to take some time away, that there probably wouldn't be an opportunity when I returned. And that there sure as heck would not be any support during the time of leave, and absolutely would not be any promises for any sort of role restructuring prior to the leave. And there never was once the exact words of, like, you won't have a job or you won't have an opportunity. But what happened instead was like this inability to make promises, inability to commit to anything that might lie ahead in the future. And I'm a big girl. I have full understanding that contract work is often temporary, and there is typically a term where you contract for, and it's totally understandable. And I would venture to say too, that with permanent roles, like a full-time position, that can be temporary as well. And you never know when an opportunity might begin or end, but it's always frustrating for a really highly organized working mother who has been through this before and knows all of the signs to have these kinds of conversations, because there's always a choice that someone is making on either side to engage in what could be and offer support and say things like, I have every intention of, or we'll make something work, or, you know, it's let's stay connected. It's like, what resources can I offer you? How can I help? What can I do now to get you in a better place so that, you know, when the time comes and you have a child, you're ready. And I'm not saying any of this. I'm trying not to be like, I am thankful for every opportunity that I've ever had in my life. It's taught me something. I've grown. And I'm trying not to be too detailed here because these are intimate conversations, right? But I'm also not wanting to keep too much from you because you might be experiencing something like this, or you might come up to something like this in a year or two, or you might have already experienced something like this and feel alone. And I think if we don't openly share about these conversations, which I've thought about, I'm like, oh, should I not say something? You know, I think our culture has had years of people not saying something, and it's taken a long time to get like the support that we need. Like, we are human beings having human experiences. And I specifically can attest that I've had healthy, low risk pregnancies and bounced back very quickly. But I didn't want to do that this time either. I said minimum 3 to 4 months. And then as the conversations continued, I wasn't going to take a 6-week leave again. As the conversations continued, I just realized that like 6 months was just a more realistic time frame and a healthy one at that. And I would have to take that anyway with my actual contract company to step away and like renew my time contracting with the particular company I was contracting with. Hopefully that makes sense. But there's a time limit, and then there's like a statute of limitations. Like you have to take a break and then come back if you want to contract with that same company. But no limitations if I like take my break and then want to contract with another. So that's always an option. And I recognize too that like I work in employee experience, and I actually facilitate exit interviews. I facilitate stay interviews. I facilitate roundtables, and I hear feedback from employees all the time. And so I'm trying to say it like as respectfully and politely as possible. Like there are opportunities for improvement here on both sides. There are opportunities for improvement in the way that, benefits are approached, the minimal amount of benefits that are offered, and there are opportunities of like keeping the benefits are alive that could have helped and can help working parents, whether they're an FTE or a contractor. And then there's like an opportunity here too for like management and leadership and the company that's being contracted with of like, how are you leading and guiding? What kind of conversations are you having? And there's always, always at the end of the day, I'm going to bring this up because I don't want these episodes to be listened to and like folks to think, well, at the end of the day, it's your life. I understand that. And there's always, always, always at the end of the day, a sense of responsibility with a person that is experiencing these things firsthand, right? And I'm actually reading a book. It's called Portal. I'll link it. It's a little on the edge, but I do like what she has to say about the idea that everything that we experience is actually something that we've chosen to experience in our lives. And I think that has, I'm a religious person. I was taught early in my life that we all have accountability and we all have free will and choices that we make in our lives. And because of those choices, we experience things in our lives and we kind of journey map our life for ourselves based on, the A, B, C, D options that we choose every day. And so I'm very well aware of that. And I also have done quite a bit of therapy throughout my life and inner work and affirmations and meditation and prayer and internal processing, journaling, walks, all of the things to kind of figure out that, okay, frustrated about the situation. Like, here we go again. I don't have a supported leave like I want to. And in this case, like I don't have a job either as I come back. Dang, like that sucks. But I had to sit with this as I'm reading this book. I'm like, in a way, like chose this. There are different points in the path where you kind of like give up your independence or give up your ability to choose to someone else, and you kind of like let them decide. And in turn, like when I went into these conversations, it was like, I want to do this. Like, I want to take this leave and I want to come back to a job. Like, what does that look like? And I kind of turned it over to them and was like, what does that look like? Like, tell me what that looks like. And that was a point, like a pivotal point where instead of, maybe mapping it out myself and being like, this is how I envision me coming back. This is what my leave looks like. This is every little step in like how I can still contribute, which again is not a requirement of every person going through pregnancy. It's just, I think that can sometimes like too detailed of a plan can sometimes be a little silly. But I recognize that like, I sat down in those conversations and I was kind of like, this is what I want. Here, you tell me how I get it. And I think in those moments in life, just like me reflecting back a little bit, and kind of like I said, the inner processing that I've done over the last 6 months or so, that was kind of like some turning points of me handing over my power, of saying like, you tell me what happens next. And I didn't get back what I wanted because I turned it over to someone else. So yeah, there could definitely be process improvement on both sides. But at the end of the day too, I realized that like, it's fully within my power to create a new experience for myself. And I have no fear whatsoever surrounding my birth experience. I am pumped as I'll get out. This might be weird to people, but like, or maybe you don't align. Maybe you had like a traumatic birth experience or are nervous about having a baby or all the things. But like, as far as like the birth is concerned, oh my gosh, I love birth. I love like going through the labor. I love like bringing a baby into the world and even like the early postpartum. Postpartum is hard though. And I feel like I've prepared for it differently this time around. So a few things that we've done differently: invested in a birth doula, and we switched out the medical provider too. So I'm with a new medical provider. I'm really excited. I'm going to be birthing in a really like serene atmosphere, which is exciting. I also have a postpartum doula. So someone that's going to come in, and I recognize all of this is like privilege. I saved and scrapped and planned for this ahead of time and paid my own money for this to have postpartum doula come in for 6 weeks after the birth. It like starts for several days a week and then like staggers off after that. And then like asks for family support, obviously, but like really, you know, and then like relying quite a bit on that postpartum doula, to like make sure that I'm caring for myself properly. We even have another postpartum doula coming in and making Ayurvedic meals every other week, which is going to be really cool. Just preparing differently, like prepping for that postpartum, because I am like ready for birth. Like I'm ready for the labor. Like I'm so zenned out and into it. I took a hypnobirthing class again. I've been doing daily meditations and affirmations. I'm like so thrilled about the birth, but it's just, yeah, I'm doing postpartum differently. So I feel really prepared there. And I have decided just to like let the career thing go. Just let it go. And it's interesting that I decided that because I had a conversation with my husband, and he was just kind of like, you can't be, because I'm going to be honest again. I cried. Yeah, I cried. I cried quite a bit about this because I felt like it was unfair, or like, I would have handled it differently if roles were reversed. But at the end of the day, I just accepted that like the experience that I'm living is one that I chose. And gosh, that was like liberating. And I on this show, I want to call responsibility and just like reliability. Like I want to call companies to responsibility and reliability and support for their employees and figuring the crap out to make sure that working parents have what they need. But at the same time, it's like, if working parents aren't advocating, speaking up, communicating, like choosing what they need, then companies are going to continue the way that they always have. And that's just like, what's the easiest way to get the bottom line? That, what's the easiest way to stay profitable? What's the easiest way to make more money? What's the easiest way to have the work support? What's the easiest way? It's not always the best way. Investing in working parents, they will literally run through walls for you. And, are among the most talented in the workforce. So not to bash on people who don't have kids. I have several amazing friends who have chosen not to have children, and like I fully support that. And they're also hyper talented, amazing individuals. And they don't take leaves, but I mean, like parental leave, but I also just want to like call to action the accountability and inner work that we have to do for ourselves. And as soon as I'm just going to say too, like as soon as I just let that crap go and lifted the weight off and just like enjoyed my freaking life and my pregnancy and just started focusing more on my family and just was like, don't care. I'd saved for my leave, know that I'm going to be supported by my family during that time away. I'm fully confident that I have the skills to be amazing in another role that's a fit in customer and employee experience, in community, events, communication, all of those things. Like I let it go, and then some opportunities started coming in, which was really cool. I don't have anything to report at the moment, and I'll share when the time is right. But I will just say that me speaking my truth and also just letting it go. My husband reminding me, life is not stagnant. You cannot have a chokehold on things. You cannot stay glued to things. You will not survive in life. It moves quick. You have to just be free flowing. That's how opportunities come through. Trust that it will work out, and know that you don't have to have every answer. That's when things got clearer for me. So I hope this helps. I hope I can share some more happy things along the way, but this is where I'm at right now. And I just want to send out empathy and awareness to other women who are going through something similar. I know it sucks. I know that it hurts. I know that you can do everything you possibly can to be like the greatest planner alive and have everything organized. And then like someone can tell you that because you're having a human experience and you're quite literally creating a miracle of human life, that you're a liability. Yeah, it still happens. still a thing. It's not right, but at the same time, you have no obligation to be tied to that feeling, and you can move on, and it's okay. And you can embrace the experience that you had and be grateful to the people who gave you the experience, which I am so grateful. And I did embrace it fully. And then you can continue with your life. And the energetic momentum and things that are resonating with you from just like letting it go and breathing and just not harboring resentment or frustration is so freeing. And it's better for you, and it's better for your baby. So all the love. I feel like I'm in a really good place right now, and I'm feeling really grateful and fortunate to have had the experiences that I did, and to also have had to navigate these current conversations or, recently passed, and to move forward with really like truly faith and trust that everything's going to be honestly better than I tried to plan it to be. Thanks for listening. That's a wrap on today's episode of Birth at Work. If our topic resonated with you, I'd love to hear about it. Connect with me on social or via email. Your experiences and questions help shape future episodes. Remember, you're not alone in this journey of balancing career and family. Every challenge you're facing, someone else has navigated too, and every victory you celebrate, big or small, deserves to be recognized. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave us a review. It helps other working parents find these conversations when they need them the most. And if you know someone who could benefit from hearing these stories, please share this episode with them. Until next time, remember, you don't have to choose between your career dreams and your family dreams. You're already proving that every day. Thanks for listening to Birth at Work. I'm Krislyn Powell, and I'll see you next time.